I'm now going to introduce our special guest. This is a lady that I have followed for many years, having lived in Chicago and worked in Chicago myself at the Chicago Children's Museum gift shop. Yes, folks, I actually started out in the gift shop, Barb. Uh, I have followed your career for a long time, Barb. Barb has written a number of amazing books. She is a powerhouse in the recruitment industry. We're so excited to have her here today to discuss all things about BD in this new normal. So welcome, Barb, and good evening. And I'm sure it's probably a little bit chillier now where you are compared to where we are.
I don't know. We've been having warm weather in Chicago, though. I think they're a little bit messed up here. We're still in the 60s, so we're very happy. But
Nice
it's
one.
not going to last. It's not going to last for sure.
Afraid not. Yeah.
Right. But thank you and welcome everybody. And I totally agree with Casey that now is the best time to think about business development because now companies that would never talk to you before are willing to talk to you because they can't find talent. And so now is the time to go out there and represent the companies that you've only dreamt of representing in the past because everybody needs our services. Um, I keep being asked by everybody, when will things return to normal? And the most honest answer I can give you is probably never, which is why it's so important that you adjust to the new normal. And you've got to take a proactive approach to business development. You know, taking people to lunch and doing all the things that we did before is just not feasible in many cases. So what is? Today I'm going to address four things. Why recruiting is key to the most valuable sales leads. My recruiters give 3 sales leads to my sales team every single day. And that's just a minimum requirement. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Why should you check references on the past employees of your targets? How marketing candidates is going to help you attract new clients and creative, innovative approaches in a not normal sales environment. With all the information we have when you're interviewing candidates and everything that's online, you should never make a cold marketing call. Client development is more fun now, especially if you do it the way I'm going to teach you, because you're going to go in with information and you're going to sound very informed. And therefore, it's much more comfortable. It's much easier to get their attention. Now, why is recruiting key to the most valuable sales leads? You've got to become very aware of the information you obtain during interviews. And if you have sales separate from recruiting, you're on the same team. And salespeople, you want to be every recruiter's favorite salesperson because understand that when they're interviewing, they find out how candidates obtain their past jobs and they've got inside information on companies. So imagine that. If somebody got a past job through a recruiting firm, that's a lead for you. They have current interview activity and what offers that this candidate has turned down. They know the most and least desirable companies, and you can check references and then convert them to marketing presentations. That is the easiest way to land a new client. Now let's delve into each of these areas, starting out with companies that you're targeting. When you interview someone who has worked at one of the targeted companies, you've got to ask questions to obtain information from them that only a past employee could provide. So if you have sales and recruiting separated, salespeople, let your recruiters know what companies you're targeting for next year. Because when they know what you're targeting, if they interview somebody from one of those companies, they can give you tremendous inside information. And now you're making a very informed sales call. Now let's talk about how candidates obtain past jobs and inside information. Start out your sales calls with, we interviewed someone who obtained their job with you through another recruiting firm, and I'd like to know what steps I should take to become a backup to your current resources. You don't want to call and not let them know that you've got this information because clients have learned what they can say to us to get most salespeople off the phone. You know, we're not hiring, we currently have resources. They know the 2 or 3 objections to get you off the phone. But if you start out with this, we interviewed someone who got their job through another recruiting firm. What steps do I have to take to become a backup? And make sure when you're in sales, you always ask open-ended questions. If a potential client ever says yes or no to you, you've asked the wrong question. You know, you've got to ask open-ended questions, which encourages a response. Most past employees can provide information not found anywhere else. They can give you comprehensive detail on the past employers, and they can really tell you what the company culture is like. Because a company, states what their culture is on their website, but each department can have a different culture. They can tell you about challenges. They can give you names and direct lines for companies' contacts. They can give you the personalities of the people they work for, the number of other positions in a department or company. If you place attorneys, they know how many attorneys are in the company. If you place engineers, they know how many engineers are there. So now you know exactly the size of the target, and they can give you insight into the good, bad, and ugly of working at any company. Imagine your response if you receive this call. After talking to one of your past employees, I was so inspired to reach out to you. Well, now when you say that, I feel good about myself because you were inspired to call me. Employers always want to know what ex-employees are saying about them. You then start out with, I represent the best talent in your profession, and I also represent the best companies. And after I learned, and now you're going to give them something that that past employee said about them. What's the best thing they said about the company? After I learned this, I've targeted your company because I'm confident I can help you attract the best talent. What steps do I need to take? What is your most difficult hiring decision? If you could improve your recruiting efforts in one way, what would you improve? There, again, we're asking questions where they can't say yes or no. What about current interview activity and what offers they've turned down? Candidates who are currently interviewing can provide leads of companies that are currently interviewing and hiring. These are hot leads. These are companies that are in the interviewing process right now. And again, recruiters have to learn always to ask, do you have any offers that you've turned down? Even if they've turned down an offer 3 months ago, did they turn down an offer with a company that was represented by a staffing and a recruiting firm? Because again, now you know the type of job they were hiring for. Now you know they use staffing and recruiting firms. And again, any recruiters need to know this information because if they present an offer that's similar to something they've turned down, the candidate's going to turn it down. So this helps the sales team, but also helps the recruiter, really fine tune their efforts. Ask your recruiters to always ask the most and least desirable companies, because I have to tell you something, even if you've got a client base that's massive right now, the companies that are popular change. A company might be a great place to work for 5 years ago, but now they don't offer a virtual opportunity. They don't have a hybrid model. Their benefits are outdated. And so right now in this candidate-driven marketplace, it is more important than ever that you represent the companies that candidates want to work for. And so that's why this question has to be asked by every recruiter. What are the 5 companies you want to work for and why? And what are the companies you would never work for and why? Because there's no more frustrating thing than you to come in as a salesperson, all excited that you landed a new client, and your recruiters look at you and say, well, nobody wants to work for. Nobody wants to work there. This helps identify the best companies that fit the criteria that's your best business. If a company has a bad reputation, you don't want to write business with them. But it's also very easy to market these candidates into the companies they want to work for, explaining why they want to work there. I'm going to get into marketing candidates a little later in the presentation. Now, why should you check references on the past employees of your targets? I believe that is the easiest way to land a new client is to check a reference. And so if you're in sales and sales and recruiting is separated in your firm, you have got to let the recruiters know who you're targeting for next year. And by the way, all of you should already know what is the hiring, what is the prospective targeted hiring that each of your clients are going to do that you currently have. So do you know what their hiring budget is for next year? Do you know what their hiring plan is for next year? Because you've got to know that now. You've got to know what your current clients are going to hire in the next 12 months. And then you look at your goals for next year, and now you know how many new clients you have to land because they might not have the job order flow that you were planning on to fill next year. But again, checking references, if a candidate has worked at one of your targeted prospects, when you're checking a reference, you're talking to someone who is a manager or someone who is involved in the hiring process. The beautiful part about this is when you're in the process of checking a reference, you're not making a sales call. You're letting them know you put your reputation on the back of every person you represent. It's a wonderful conversation. It's casual. And then at the end of the reference check, you want to say, I have one last question, and I'm sure you know what it is, or I have one last question I'd like to ask you. And then you proceed with the script. You see how thorough I am because I do put my reputation on the back of every person I represent. I not only represent the best talent, I represent the best clients. And that's why I've targeted your company for the following reasons. Now, if you're going to do this, you can never do this without having researched the company. Because what companies hate in client development is if we see a job board ad and then we call and say, I saw your job board ad, I have the perfect candidate. I speak to a lot of our end users in front of corporate offices, corporate audiences, and manufacturing audiences all the time. And they say, we can't stand when we run a job board ad and recruiters call. We've spent thousands of dollars. And by the way, companies are spending $2.5 billion on job board ads, and they're not working anymore. That's why they need you and I. They need the services of a recruiter, but you've got to have the research done, and you've got to share the research that you did when you make the call. Now, this person could say, I'm not the person who selects our resources. That's okay. At that point, you ask to be transferred. And when the new person answers, you start out with, I was just on the phone with Casey, and they suggested that we talk, or he suggested that we talk. So now they feel that, if Casey was the person that gave me the reference, that now Casey suggested we talk. So it's a warm call rather than a cold call. Now, how does marketing candidates help attract new clients? Because if you're in sales, you should be marketing candidates. Every time you are talking to a prospective client, you should have at your fingertips 2 or 3 outstanding candidates that are a sampling of the type of talent that you represent. It's no different than you would walk into a store and they give you a sampling of food, and all of a sudden you have the sampling and it entices you to buy. It's the same thing with marketing candidates. Ask your candidates to name their 5 dream companies. If you could work anywhere, where would you work and why? And this is something that you can share during your presentation. Now, sometimes candidates might say, well, I don't know. I don't know where I want to work. Well, what companies do you respect the most? What companies have you heard great things about? Because in this competitive marketplace, if you can send people where they want to work, that's where they accept a job without hesitation. And just as important, that's where they become an engaged and retained employee. Because again, as a salesperson, you're not judged on the business that you write. You know that, and I know that. You're judged on the business that you write that is filled. And so you can go out there, and if you wrote, 20 job orders or 20 contracts, that's great. But if your recruiting team doesn't fill them, your success is very limited. And eventually the owner is going to come to you and say, why aren't we filling the jobs you're writing? And so marketing candidates helps you, attract those clients that you need to be representing. So let's talk about the benefits of marketing a candidate to land a new client. Number one, it teaches you how to identify your most placeable candidates. And what's nice about this, when you're marketing somebody, you're getting more information on them that may not have been discussed in the initial interview. In fact, to write a grabber for a marketing presentation, we always reach out to the candidates we're going to market and say, listen, we're going to market you to the companies that you gave us, plus our best clients. If you were going to make that phone call, give me the best thing about you. What makes you stand out? And what's really interesting is you could have done a thorough interview, and when you ask a candidate what's the best thing about them, they give you additional information that can grab the attention of one of your prospects. Number 3, it shows your candidate database that you're working on their behalf, even if you don't place them in a job, because you let them know you're going to market them. And now even if you don't find a job for them, they realize you were working on their behalf, which again helps everybody. You're all on the same team. Benefit number 4 is this just is a sampling of your inventory. And often understand something, when you're marketing a candidate, yes, you would love to get an interview for that person. And right now I train all over the world. And right now marketing candidates is absolutely working. And let me tell you why. Because so often you've got a hiring manager out there that is not happy with people on the team, but they know there's a candidate shortage. And so they're putting up with somebody. They haven't told HR, they haven't told talent acquisition that they're not happy, but they're not happy. And all of a sudden you call with someone and they're thinking, oh my God, I've got this weak link. And so this is such a great way. This is a sampling of the type of candidate you represent. And sometimes they might say, well, I don't have an opening for that person. And so you ask an open-ended question. What is your greatest challenge? What is the hardest talent for you to find? This is just a great way to land new clients, and it's not a cold call. It feels better. Benefit number 5 is when you utilize a candidate as a sampling of the caliber you represent, you're keying in on how this prospective candidate might benefit by interviewing them. You got to understand, when you're talking to a prospect, they don't care about you. They don't care about your company. They don't care that you're trying to land new clients. All they care about is what's in it for me. Imagine every time you have a prospect on the phone, or you're sending an email, you're sending an email, any communication has to address how you can benefit the person that you're addressing, because they don't care about us. They care about themselves. So every one of your presentations, listen to your presentation. Are you always showing somebody how they can benefit by you? because those are the calls that work. What we do, the WWD calls, we do this, we do that, we've been in business this many years, we specialize. They don't want to hear any of that. They want to know that you've helped other clients just like them attract the talent that they have the biggest challenge finding. And so again, when you use a sampling and say it's a company that hires engineers and you're presenting a mechanical engineer and they're going, oh my God, that's exactly what we need. You're showing them a sampling. And again, sometimes you'll write a job for that person. Sometimes I'll talk about another challenge, but you're giving them a sampling of the high caliber of person you represent. Benefit number 6 is it's just one of the most effective ways of generating new clients and writing job orders. When I start individuals out, I only have them recruit. And they always write job orders when they're only recruiting because they are checking references, and we teach them how to convert references into marketing calls. And right now, we've had individuals with less than a month of experience land a new client just by converting a reference check, because finding talent right now is the greatest challenge that companies have, other than re-engaging and retaining the current people that they have. So your services are needed more than ever before. And if you've been afraid to reach out, say that you know a company in Australia that's just this phenomenal company and you just don't feel you can get in, I'm telling you right now you can, because there is not a company out there that is not really nervous about the lack of talent right now. So this is your opportunity to really get out there. And I loved when I was listening to Casey, the fact that you could put leads in your system right now, which most systems don't have that. You just put in an active order. So now you've got a vehicle where you can actually put those leads, because when a prospect says no to you, they're not really saying no to you. When they say, I don't have any openings, I can't use your service, timing might be wrong. Of course, they're going to need your service down the road, but you've got to differentiate yourself. And by converting reference checks to marketing calls, by marketing candidates, by sharing your track record of success, by getting most of your leads from your recruiting team, you're going to be approaching people very informed, very different. You're going to sound like you really did your research. And again, you have to be more informed than anybody. Don't just call off a list. Don't just call a company and try to land them as a client unless you've done thorough research. Like I said earlier, there is no excuse for a cold call. We've got too much information now at our fingertips. Benefit number 7. There's as many ways to utilize and market a candidate as there are recruiters in our profession or account executives. But marketing a candidate is one of the most effective ways, because again, there's little or no competition. There is little or no competition when you market a candidate. When you're trying to get the business from someone who's run a job board ad, they have a database filled with candidates that have answered job board ads. When you're marketing a candidate, you're usually marketing it to someone that is not in an active job search. They're not looking for someone right now. And if they say, I don't have an opening, the next question has to be, is there somebody you'd like to upgrade in your department? Or I've seen companies make a place for someone like this. See, normally I'd be calling my best client with this person. The only reason I'm calling you is because when I asked this person where they wanted to work, they said your company, and let me tell you why they want to work there. That really is impactful when you say, I would normally be calling my best client. Let me explain why I'm calling you instead. This person really wants to work for you, and then you've got to give them the reasons why. Companies really do react. Prospects really do react when someone has a sound reason why they want to work at the company. And even in your presentation, when you say, I was so inspired to pick up the phone and call you, make prospects feel good about the phone call. Don't sell until you understand what's most important to them. You've also got to be very creative. You've got to be creative. You've got to have innovative approaches, because this is a not normal sales environment. Most clients are reevaluating their priorities and have many unanswered questions. And so I never thought that you would hear these words out of my mouth ever. I'm telling recruiters to slow down, and I'm telling account executives to slow down the sales process long enough to determine what's most important to your clients and prospects. In these types of uncertainty, people are more willing to complain. I'm sure that it's no different in New Zealand and Australia than it is in London or the States, that people are very frustrated right now. It's very easy to get somebody to complain. The beautiful part about this is when they complain, they're telling you their priorities. Refrain from selling until you understand their greatest problem, because this allows you to position yourself as their logical solution. See, right now, people will buy. And you and I both know companies need your services. Your services are needed more right now than in any other time in history. And I've been in this profession over 30 years. I have never seen it better for a salesperson than right now. Companies need you. You just have to differentiate yourself. You have to approach them different. You have to sound different. If they think you can solve their problems, they're going to use you. Business is coming back. Companies are hiring. Help them realize there's many creative ways to convert their hiring process to a virtual process if necessary. I did a course for LinkedIn Learning on virtual interviewing in less than a year ago, and they've had 90,000 people take the course. That's how people are converting to, virtual interviewing. Suggest an initial phone interview that's conducted by one person. Suggest that everybody asks the same questions. Suggest a panel interview. You've got to help your clients because timing is everything. You and I both know that. And if they realize you're a workplace expert, you're giving them ways to escalate the hiring process. Tell them to use a scorecard based on a score of 1 to 5. And again, when you suggest panel interviews, it eliminates emotion and bias from the decision of who is going to the panel interview. And one person does not have the authority to hire or screen somebody out. And, diversity and hiring qualified candidates and pay equity, those are all topics that are extremely important to individuals right now. And if you become that workplace expert, you not only help your clients find the top talent, but you help your clients fine tune their interviewing process. Give them advice. Let them see that you're not just only talking to them when you're making money on them, because that's how your clients feel. When I talk to clients and I speak to a lot of corporate audiences, they say, we just feel like a source of income to most of the salespeople that call on us. And I go, no, we're workplace experts. They go, no, you're not. The only time we talk to salespeople and staffing and recruiting is when they're making money off of us. So the first thing you all have to do is go back and make sure you have more than one contact at every one of your current clients, because you and I both know clients are changing jobs much more often than they ever did before. If you got one contact at a client company, that's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to go out there and get 2 contacts at every company. But then the next thing I want you to do, I want you to go out there and differentiate yourself. Sound different, become that workplace effort, determine their problems. Don't sell at people. Ask them questions, determine what's most important to them, and then position yourself as that person that can solve it. Now is the time to at least gain name recognition with prospective companies. It takes 6 times before somebody realizes who you are and what you do. And so you can do that now, between now and the end of the year. It only takes, I believe in making 6 contacts in 9 weeks. Now, obviously, you're not going to call somebody 6 times in 9 weeks because they're going to think you're a stalker, but you can send them an article of interest. You can share expectations with them. You can do a lot of different things within that period of time to keep your name in front of them. You've got to show people you really want their business, and you have to know why you want it. Do you know your best business? Who are your best clients right now? Because you should find other companies that mirror your best business. And your best business may not be the business where you're writing the most business. What company are you filling the most business with that pays higher margins or pays higher fees and pays you on time? So study your business and understand who are your best clients. Go out there and try to mirror them. You've got to identify targets and triggers and learn to use some free tools. Remember the best clients to target. Conduct revenue modeling. Go back 2 years. And don't look at all the job orders or contracts or assignments that you wrote. Just study the business that you filled. And, again, I had someone recently tell me that they work 59 job titles. And I said, that's way too many. And I want you to go back and see what job titles you're filling. And they go, we fill 59 titles. And I said to them, I bet 75% of your sales are less than 10 titles. And they go, no, they're not. They did revenue modeling and found out that 82% of their business was 6 titles. And yet they're working 59. Go back 2 years and look at all the business you filled, and that's the business that you want to write. Candidates don't want to go on one job anymore. They will not go on one interview. They want to go on 2 or 3 interviews. So as a salesperson, the best thing you could do is write the same title, have 2 or 3 different jobs with the same title. Now your recruiters can send their candidates on 2 or 3 openings. You're gonna fill much more business if you continually write the same titles over and over again. Set up Google alerts on all your prospects and all your current clients. I'm hoping that you all have Google Alerts set up on all your clients right now. But if not, a Google Alert shows you everything that is said online about your clients and your prospects. And the first time a Google Alert comes in your inbox, like I use Outlook, and so the first time a Google Alert comes in, say that I was targeting the Chicago Tribune, and so I'm going to set up a Google Alert for the Chicago Tribune. The minute that first one comes in my inbox, I'm going to right-click and set up a rule that it goes into a folder in Outlook that has Chicago Tribune on it. And so you should have folders in your email provider of every client you currently have and every prospect. And before you talk to current clients as a salesperson, before you talk to prospects, you open that folder and you read what's recently been said. Because Google Alerts tell you everything that's being said online about someone. So it's not what they're saying about themselves, it's what everybody else is saying about them online. If you don't know how to set up a Google Alert, Google it. Google, how do I set up a Google Alert? And they will show you how to do it. Another tool that I love that's a Chrome extension is Crystal Knows. If you've never used Crystal Knows, and it's spelled right out there, crystalknows.com. Now, I just found out recently that Crystal Knows has now expanded. I guess now they're doing a ton of things. But what we've been using it for is if you go to Crystal Knows and you put in a name, Crystal Knows is an amazing tool that gives you tremendous information on an individual. I want to share a story with you. I was at a conference, and this was probably 12, 15 years ago, and someone said, who knows Crystal? And we all went, we don't know Crystal. And they said, well, let's put up somebody's profile that you all know. I was keynoting at the conference. And so he puts my LinkedIn profile up in front of like 1,800 people. And I didn't know what he was going to do. So I stood up and I said, I don't know Crystal. Crystal doesn't know me. And he said, oh, Crystal knows you, Barbara Bruno. And he put my LinkedIn profile up, and all of a sudden, all this data showed up. It said that don't call me Mrs. Bruno, call me Barb. I'm very informal. That don't be real serious with me. I like people that are funny, that have a sense of humor, that don't do an editorial. Give me the Cliff Notes because my attention span is short. And it is. It said that I'm pretty black and white. I don't do well in gray. And it just went on and on, that in emails, I'll only read bullets. Don't do a paragraph because I won't read it. And I'm like, how do they know that? Like, I was so amazed. It's a Chrome extension, and what it does, it gives you a mini disc profile of the person. Can you imagine knowing all of that about a prospect that you're calling? And it's a free tool. Now, after you use it so many times, they start charging. So you could do a different Gmail account to not have to pay for it. But if you don't believe this, download the Chrome extension Crystal Knows and put yourself in there and look at what it says. I came back. In fact, afterwards, he said, Barbara, what do you think about Crystal Knows? And I said, I think that's creepy. I think that's creepy. You knew that much about me, but I've already downloaded it on my phone. And everybody started laughing because, of course, we did. It's a free Chrome extension that'll give you tremendous information. You want to identify hiring triggers. A trigger is something that makes the person do something else. What are triggers that make companies hire? Is it mergers? Is it acquisitions? Is it a big project that somebody had? You've got to learn to identify hiring triggers in the Google alerts that you're getting. You want to position yourself as that workplace expert. Please do not only talk to your clients and prospects when you're making money on them, because then we just prove them right, that we just view them as a source of revenue. And again, for those of you that are established salespeople, you have to go back and get more than one contact at each company and really share some of the things I've given you today. Say that we just went to this webinar that JobAdder provided for us, and I just have to share some things I learned. Start becoming, position yourself as a consultant, as a trusted advisor. You'll get more business from them. Share written expectations. I believe that we should give clients, this is what you can expect from me. This is what I need from you. And after everything I tell them I need from them, I'm going to show them the benefit to them. This instantly differentiates you from all your competitors because they're confused because none of us work the same way. Provide updated information constantly. Market candidates who have identified them as the employer of choice because you can tell them why people want to work for them. Market candidates, again, that are hard to find, that they haven't been able to find in years. Learn personal things about people. They would much rather talk about soccer or their kids or the weather than anything that we want to talk about. When you let people talk about themselves, they like you more. And I believe in learning something personal about even my current clients with every third conversation. I want to know everything about my clients. I want to know if they're married, if they're not, when they got married, where they went to school, what sports teams they back, do they have kids, what sports do they play. I know everything about my clients because I don't want to remain a vendor. I want to go to vendor, trusted advisor, consultant, friend. I believe that we've got to make clients our friends because if business does tighten up, they'll still use you. And obtain cell phone numbers, home addresses, and personalize your follow-up contacts. During COVID, we had no problem talking to people because we had everybody's home address, we had their cell phones. We get that information. So when the pandemic shut everybody down and they weren't at work, we were still talking to everybody. And that's a position you want yourself in. Next, every one of your clients you're currently doing business could give you more business. Every client could refer you. The reason they don't is because they also don't want to refer their competition. Referred business is the best business. And again, when you refer somebody, there's that inferred level of trust, so the business happens quicker. The reason most salespeople don't get referrals is you don't ask for them. Your current client doesn't want to refer you because they don't want to compete for talent. The client doesn't see the what's in it for them to provide referrals, and you don't have a structured referral program. Referred clients are warm, not cold calls. There's an inferred level of trust. Therefore, they're going to hire faster. And in this current environment, you've got to ask for referrals. Now, what I did probably 10 years ago is I developed a referral program where we donate to the client's favorite charity in their name if the person they referred hires through us. And we only do that with the first job. So we donate to their favorite charity in their name. Their charity could be their kids' softball team or soccer team. It could be their church, their synagogue. When we started donating to their cause in their name, it really resonated. And that year, our client referrals went up over 350%. That didn't happen by chance. In fact, if you want a copy of my client referral program, I have a whole training program on that. If you send an email to support@staffingandrecruiting.com, so support@staffingandrecruiting.com, my team will send you a copy of the referral program. I'm telling you that every one of your clients could give you new clients. And I'd be glad to share that because JobAdder invited me to do this. And because, most of you are clients of JobAdder is the only reason I'm going to give you this free. But I'm telling you, it's a step-by-step. It shows you exactly what to do. And guess what happens when we have the charity present the check? It's a photo op, and it ends up in the company newsletter, and other departments hire from you. We've got to get creative. We've got to get innovative in these days. And again, referred clients hire faster because of that inferred level of trust. But I would be glad to share that with you. I can tell you if you implement any of the ideas I shared, you're going to definitely write more business during our new normal. And I want you to write business that's going to be filled. Because like I said earlier, yes, you're judged as a salesperson on how much business you write. But what you're really judged on is how much business do you fill? And the people that you put in jobs, do they stay? Do they stay and become retained employees? I would also like to invite each one of you to please join me on LinkedIn. I write articles twice a week for LinkedIn. I try to do things that you can send to your clients so you can position yourself as a workplace expert. And anybody that is on this call, I would be glad to connect with you. So just send me an invite to connect. And now I'm going to turn it over to our friends at JobAdder.